that mindset is such a crucial piece, it really in any facet of life, but really to help them feel empowered to be who they want to be and be able to help people out. Because if I can help people get better at speaking, they can share a message that can impact somebody. And I say this a
Yes.
lot, but like for you and I, we could say that same exact message, but because of our backgrounds, you'll impact people that I never will, and vice versa.
Sure.
And
Yep.
so a lot of people think, oh, I've got to come up with some unique thing to talk about and teach about. And it's like, you don't.
No.
Be you, be genuinely you, and keep preaching that same message. And people will be impacted by that. And they will be transformed because of you and what you are doing and saying. But of course, you have to be doing that as well. You can't just say it,
Yep.
or it doesn't matter then, because then you become a hypocrite.
Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by Tranquil Turtle Massage. Tracy over there, the founder, she's a small town girl from Montana, loves God, loves her family, loves her friends, loves working out, fishing, and camping. She has a passion for helping those in need and enjoys being creative with woodworking, crocheting, healthy baking, pottery, and cooking. Look, she began her massage journey back in 2010, where she graduated from massage school up in Anchorage, Alaska. She specializes in her signature massages, the Hanu infusion and the Hanu ashiatsu, as well as the gua sha and manual lymphatic drainage. If you're looking for a massage specialist and someone who could get you feeling good, go see Tracy down at Tranquil Turtle Massage. And while you're there, check out CDA Microblading, offering Coeur d'Alene's best tattoo brows, plasma fibroblast, tightening, and PMU services right there in the heart of downtown Coeur d'Alene. Make sure you book your appointment at pnwmobilemassage.com. Philip, you're a husband, you're a dad, you're a speaking coach, podcast host, author, much more, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. I appreciate it.
Eric, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the podcast.
Oh, man, such an honor to have you here. I like to kick things off by going back a bit. Where did you grow up? What was childhood like for you, man?
Man, so I came out of this really dark hole, and all of a sudden there was just a bunch of light. I was breathing. Actually, that is a very
awesome.
interesting story. I actually had a broken arm at birth.
Did you really have broken arm at birth?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was 10 pounds, 10 and a half ounces.
Okay.
Yes, 10 pounds, 10 and a half ounces. You heard that right.
Yeah,
so
I was I think I was
enormous baby right at birth, and like my shoulders were getting caught, and I guess they cut my mom open as much as they could, all this stuff. Well, I'm not a medical doctor or anything.
Sure.
But they cut her open as much as they could. And back then they actually used to kind of like push you and then like turn you and all this stuff. And apparently they were like yanking on me. And then all of a sudden my arm broke, and I came out, and they rushed me off immediately. My mom didn't get to see me. And finally, when she did get to see me, I was, because of my broken arm, they put me in with all the NICU babies.
Yeah.
So here I am, this 10-pound monster with like 3-pound babies. So I just looked even more massive. And she laughed the first time she saw me, because she's like, oh my gosh, he's so big. And I can imagine, seeing my daughter, she was like 8 pounds.
Okay.
And I made 10 pounds. Yeah. And I was ready to go before my mom to leave the hospital. But yeah, so very interesting story there.
Very interesting start, dude.
Yeah, man. That's actually the first time I told that story on a podcast. So
that's awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so it's a really big baby. And so I guess I've always kind of been more on the bigger side. My mom said growing up, I always kind of had muscles, was into sports and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I was really never amazing at sports. I ended up in distance running, so long distance running, cross country and track. Finally, my senior year, which is probably one of my top athletic feats, was I broke a 5-minute mile. I got a 4:59, my last ever 1-mile race in high school, which is really awesome. And so it grew up in a small town near Houston, Texas, so about an hour outside of Houston, in a small town called Hockley, or I went to Waller High School. So most people have no clue where that's at, even if they're from Houston.
Okay.
So I always just say Houston. And then it's always this whole story. Went off to college. It's where I found fitness, got in love with fitness, and started really working out. Very interesting there, because it was like I started working out to be more attractive to females. And then it seemed like I got more male attention, which was interesting in itself, but not only from like the ones that are interested in me
Yeah,
as a partner, but
sure.
also just dudes be like, dude, how'd you get so big? Or what'd you do? You know, how do you work out and all this stuff? And so it's just very interesting because then the girl attention, it seemed like it got further away
Okay.
because some of them acted like if they
Yeah,
dated me, I would put
yeah.
them on a meal plan. I'm like, I'm not gonna put you on a meal plan.
Right. Sure.
So kind of
That's
fast
awesome.
forward through that. I got a degree in electrical engineering right at the end. I said my last semester, I was like, man, I really love this fitness thing. I would love to be a personal trainer.
Okay.
But then I'm like, I went to school. This is ridiculous if I go switch and everything. And so I just kept pursuing that engineering degree, finished that out, went into engineering. A few years into engineering, I kind of bounced around a couple of places in Texas, moved over to South Carolina for a job after getting laid off in oil and gas. And that's where I really started my entrepreneurial journey because I was in huge amounts of debt. I was making
Mm,
60,000 a year and barely scraping by. And it's
yeah,
just me, single guy, because of all the debts from school, student loans. I had a
sure.
truck that was $740 a month. So like ridiculous amount of money there. I was
Wow.
living at home. So that's why I had bought it and I could
Okay.
afford it then.
Yeah.
But I realized that. So I cut everything out. I ended up moving to Georgia right after that, got a $10,000 pay increase for a
Okay.
new company. I got two roommates from that were in college. So I cut my expenses like crazy, sold the truck, which is a whole nother story. The guy was like, oh, what you trying to do? And I'm like, I'm selling my 2014 F-150 King Ranch that I bought brand new for this 2012 Ford Fusion Hybrid. And he's like, wait, what? Like, we're downgrading? Yeah, we're downgrading.
That's
I
awesome.
promise. I'm gonna get this
Yeah.
thing paid off in 3 months, and that's
Yeah.
what I did. So
Okay.
just really going through that journey and trying to get to where I could get in a good place to be able to get married, and then of course, I was trying to start this entrepreneurial journey, which really I kind of had that itch to go into personal training in college. And so that's what I started with. I started trying to do personal training on the side, really more online, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to be stuck to a gym. And as I started doing that, I started noticing that mindset was the big thing that everybody struggled with.
Mm,
It wasn't necessarily nutrition, it was the mindset behind that. And I've got to do this all the time. And through my journey of fitness, I actually did a bodybuilding show in 2017, which is probably my greatest thing athletic wise ever.
wow.
And based on that, I kind of wrote a book around it because it was all about mindset and the discipline behind that.
Come on.
Yeah, right there. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, buddy.
Uh, so I wrote that book to help other people out. But even through that, and now I've kind of full circle left the fitness space to go into the speaking space and really help people because that's another fear that everybody has, and it's a huge mental block that they don't
Huge.
want to speak, whether it's on stage, whether it's behind a microphone like we're doing on the podcast, or just pulling out their phone and doing a video on social media. They
Yeah.
are so afraid of doing that, but their message is so important; it needs to get out. So I help people build confidence with that. And now along with that, but I had make sure I mentioned that I do have a wife and a daughter now
Right. Yeah.
and a little dog. So we're all one happy family and everything. And that's where I'm at here. And I jokingly say stuck in South Carolina because my wife, she moved across the street and built a house on family land. And that's where we're at, right next to the in-laws. So
Okay.
the mother-in-law is right across the street. The brother-in-law is right down the driveway. And
Okay.
here we are on the compound.
That's awesome, dude. Dude, I would love that. I mean, my in-laws are nutty, so I don't know that I could do that, man. I would
Yeah.
probably not do that. It sounds like you guys got a good setup there. That's awesome.
No, they're awesome, man. It's funny when we were dating, it was like they loved me more than her. They're like, you need to be nice to him, Brooke.
Oh,
You need to
yeah.
be nice to Philip, Brooke. He's a good one, all this stuff. I was like, man, and she's like, my parents love you more than they love me. Which,
Right.
of
Yeah.
course wasn't true, but it was just funny because they were always defending me
Oh, that's
over
so
her.
funny. That's so
Yeah.
funny, man.
So
I mean, with entrepreneurship, you can, I think being an entrepreneur, it comes natural for some folks, but usually there's someone that introduced them to entrepreneurship or influenced them in entrepreneurship. Who was that person in your life that kind of pushed you in that direction? Or maybe you just saw someone online. You're like, man, I want to go do that guy. You know what that
yeah,
guy's
so
doing.
that's a huge story in itself. So really where I'd say another pivotal moment for me to get into entrepreneurship was when I went to GrowthCon 2. So 10X GrowthCon 2 that
Yep.
Grant Cardone throws. And there was Brad Lee there. The funny, everybody remembers. The only thing I remember from Brad Lee, I think most people, is about the brush your tooth, or something like that, brush your teeth thing that he did. That story he tells with that, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I met Ed Mylett and Andy Frisella there,
Oh man.
and they were awesome. So I started following them, following all their stuff, and really started getting into that entrepreneurial space. And then GrowthCon 3, I met a guy that was in the RSA Syndicate, which is Ed and Andy's group.
Yeah.
And so I joined that as soon as I could. Once he told me about it, I'm like, dude, I got to be a part of that. And that, that kicked everything off, where my networking became a lot stronger. My network itself was a lot better. I was around people that were all entrepreneurs or wanting to be on the entrepreneurial path.
Yeah.
But I did have family. All my family, a lot of family is entrepreneurs. My grandpa on my mom's side had a gas station that he ended up turning into a muffler and brake shop when the catalytic converters were happening in the 70s or 80s or whenever that was. I'm a car
Mhm.
guy, so it was
Okay.
sometime then he did that. And so now two of his sons have taken over and done that. Then my grandpa, or my great grandpa on that side, he was a farmer. My grandpa on my dad's side, or which was my dad's side, he was a farmer. My dad had his own company, landscaping business. They turned into commercial bush hogging, which is the bigger tractor with the 15-foot batwing cutter. So he cut
Okay.
fields essentially. And then I have an uncle who has a diesel mechanic shop, which is his brother. So just a lot of entrepreneurialism within that. And actually another uncle that started probably about 5 years ago his own IT consulting firm. And
Okay.
so there's a lot of entrepreneurial blood around, but they
Yeah.
weren't necessarily the direct influence. But seeing that in my drive to always want to be more and do better, and that I feel so limited and constricted in a 9 to 5, has
Mhm.
really just lit that fire to find my way to get out of there.
Come on, man. I love that, dude. Yeah, I still
Yeah.
work a full 9 to 5, but
Same
always on
here.
fire to see how I can work my way out of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're on a good path. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
timeline, I have goals, but I don't have necessarily say, okay, I'm officially retiring next year. Right. Still working
Yeah.
towards that. But,
Yeah.
and I think even being in speaking, and I just did my first speaking gig for the last year. I got paid $50 for it, man. It was the best 50
Nice.
bucks I ever got. And I have it on my wall right here, a little check, man. I was like, that's it. That's my first speaking gig check. But public speaking, it's such, like you said, man, everyone's scared to do it. It's like the number one fear next to death, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to get used to that. But for those who are wanting to get into public speaking, but they feel overwhelmed, like what tips are you giving them? I did see a post that you said, don't picture everybody naked. You said picture them as dogs, which
Yeah.
is probably a good tip too.
Right. Right. Well, actually, I want to go back real quick. I feel like
Yeah,
we jumped right over the fact that you and I are both in a 9 to 5 and trying to
totally.
build the side hustle, if you will.
Yep.
So, I mean, what are your feelings around that? Because I don't know about you, but the groups I'm in, it's like everybody's like, you got to hurry up and get out and
Yeah.
do things, but sometimes you're just not ready, or there's just things in your life that kind of hinder that, if you will. So
Yep.
what's your take on that? Because I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that from a lot of your entrepreneur friends that are like, man, you go ahead and get on out, just kind of like almost like burn the bridges, just take the jump, take the leap, and get out.
You
So what do you
know,
think about that?
my mindset was always like, dude, I need to just walk away. I need to take the risk. And then I have to go, okay, now I have a family to support. I've got 2 kids. I've got big rent that I have to pay. And if I walk away, I'm hosed, right? Like I saw a
Mm-hmm.
huge increase in the amount that I made online between 2020 and 21. I 10x'd it. And this year I'm hoping to do that again,
Nice.
but I'm not quite there yet. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, even going, like I'm involved with Greg Reed's prosperity camp, and the guys that go to that. And I met a guy there in July last year named Kelly Cardenas,
Mm-hmm.
and happy to do an introduction to you and him too, man. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah,
Uh,
it'd be awesome.
like Christ follower, amazing entrepreneur. But I've had some really deep conversations with him, not only on the phone, but when I was down there, him and I went down to the beach in Carlsbad to watch the sunrise. We read the Bible together, man, and just prayed. And it was just cool to hear his perspective, because he is a full-time entrepreneur. He owns a bunch of salons, but he's like, Erik, the people that we hang around with, the people that we see, like they're living these lives, like they're, have these amazing lives and they're big millionaires, big money. He goes, but how many of them have a great family?
Mm,
Man, I don't know. I
mm,
couldn't think of one. And he goes, here's the thing is when you take that leap to be full-time entrepreneur, man, it is scary and it's so much pressure on you. So, it's not all geared up to what you think it is. Like you think you're going to work less, but you work 10 times more as a full-time entrepreneur. And you just have to be ready for that because you're going to sacrifice that time away from family just so you can pay those bills. You know, he goes, you might be at a baseball game and you're going to have to respond to clients because they're demanding money right now, you know, because they're demanding, you know, a job to get done, but you have to pay bills. Right. So, my perspective is I'd love to go full time, but I'm not quite there yet. And I think for me to do that, I need to double what my salary is before I'd feel comfortable walking away. And some people are like, well, are you sure you want to double? Like maybe you just make what you did. I'm like, no, not really. I want to actually double it because then I can cover the benefits and cover all of the other stuff that I'd end up paying out of pocket, you know?
Yeah, that's smart, man. And having that set target there. But you're right. You know, and I think about Ed and Andy, you know, we've been talking about them already.
Totally.
And it's like, man, they make so much money. It's ridiculous. And in the lifestyle that they have, it's like that would be awesome. I'd love to have that money. I'd love to be able to do the things that they do. But I know the lifestyle behind that and the work it takes.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm not willing to do that. And I don't know how their family life is. I mean, it could be amazing.
Right.
They don't really talk about it that much.
Sure. Yeah.
But for me, that because they're all on the road a lot, they're always working all the time. I wouldn't want to do that because I do want to have that time with family. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that 9 to 5. It's just like really just slowly inching my way out. For me, it's probably about 50%, you know, 150% of what my salary is for me to leave. And of course, kind of have to check my wife because she's super security, super stability. And of course, entrepreneurship feels like it's not, even though actually on a podcast I was recently on, we talked about this, that really it's more stable because you control that.
Yeah.
And you can go put in more work and make something happen. And you go create another software, another product, another service, whatever, and all of a sudden sell it and boom, there's more money.
Right.
But you're not doing that in your 9 to 5. You might get lucky and get, you know, a couple percent increase in your salary, or maybe you get a bonus, you know, if you're lucky. And but you know, right now with inflation, you lost money if you didn't make at least 7% or whatever it is. You got to make quite a bit of pay increase just to stay with inflation, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's my big thing. And I don't work like for a bad company. I like the job that I work for. They give me the freedom to kind of break away and do this during the day and things like that. And they know that I'm a podcaster and stuff like that. But I've always, since I started working at 16, I was always just a number. Like I'm not someone that's in part of the family. So like I could be let go. And I've worked a ton of jobs in my life because I've always had that mentality of I'm just a number. They could replace me tomorrow, right? You know, and then the raises, like you said, man, it's like 2%, 3%. Come on, man. Like, you know, it's ridiculous. And so that angers me when I get, well, let me take it back. I recently got a raise for my annual raise and it was at 3% or 3.5%, right? Or whatever it was. Yeah. And I remember like my wife came and she goes, hey, that's awesome. You got a raise. I'm like, that's a stupid raise. And she's like, no, you realize that you just got more money. And I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. Like I have to actually look at that as a blessing, right? You know, even if it's just a little bit, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so frustrating. Yeah. You're right. We have to be grateful for whatever situation we're in, whatever we get, you know, it's better than what we had before, obviously 3% better. Right. But I just kind of feel like a slap in the face too, when you know, everything else has went up, but you know, their expensive went up too. So it's, you kind of have to look at both sides and what would you do as an entrepreneur? And I think that's the beauty as well, that we're in that 9 to 5 still as we build that side hustle into a full-time thing. And we can, well, as we're grinding through, we have much more appreciation for it than just jumping straight in. And maybe you still would have a lot of appreciation, but because you're kind of battling that 9 to 5 side, you can see that appreciation that you need to give to your associates once you have people that work for you. And just show them that appreciation and make sure you're actually taking care of them, because that's a big thing. And I keep going back to Andy, but I know that's why Andy excels so well, because he shows that appreciation for his employees. And those dudes work crazy amount of hours. They're working Saturdays and Sundays and they're on a salary. Right. I'm pretty certain it's a salary. They're not like hourly or anything.
Sure.
And they're working all the time, you know, and they're working more than 8 hours during Monday through Friday as well. But because he shows so much appreciation for them. Yeah. And they all see that, but that goes back to that culture there, which is something that is another amazing thing about entrepreneurship. We create that culture. We create whatever we want that that beast to be
Yep.
for ourselves.
Oh man, it's so true. And I mean, gosh, yeah, I love podcasting has opened up so many relationships and entrepreneurships and business
Mm.
opportunities and things like that, man. And it's just awesome to meet super cool dudes like yourself. And you and I, we have this shared faith in Christ. And he's done so much in my life, and I've implemented things from my walk with Christ and being a Christian into my entrepreneurship stuff. But how did you come to know the Lord, man? How is it in your business? Like, how does your business influenced by your faith is what I guess I was trying to ask there.
Yeah, well, I guess to kind of answer that first part, I grew up going to church, so my parents were faithful
Yeah.
as well, if you will, and they took us to church, and so really just kept up from that. And probably about 16 is when that really started kind of getting solidified for me, where it's like I want to do this myself. And then when I got into college, it just kind of got that much stronger.
Mm.
But for me, because I'm a giver, I want to help people out, and that's what really drives me to help people. And I want to empower people and people to feel like they are good enough. And
Yeah.
that's exactly why I switched to the speaking and help with the mindset and everything, because that mindset is such a crucial piece, it really in any facet of life, but really to help them feel empowered to be who they want to be and be able to help people out. Because if I can help people get better at speaking, they can share a message that can impact somebody. And I say this a
Yes.
lot, but like for you and I, we could say that same exact message, but because of our backgrounds, you'll impact people that I never will, and vice versa.
Sure.
And
Yep.
so a lot of people think, oh, I've got to come up with some unique thing to talk about and teach about. And it's like, you don't.
No.
Be you, be genuinely you, and keep preaching that same message. And people will be impacted by that. And they will be transformed because of you and what you are doing and saying. But of course, you have to be doing that as well. You can't just say it,
Yep.
or it doesn't matter then, because then you become a hypocrite.
Right.
But we could all say the same message and will impact different people. And that's what I find so beautiful about human beings. And that's where my faith comes in, because I know we all can impact people differently. And maybe I say a message and somebody gets it and it's like, okay, yeah, okay, I need to fix my mindset. But then you say the same thing about fixing that mindset and why it's so important. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, it clicked.
Mhm.
But maybe it wouldn't have clicked if I didn't first say it and kind of plant that seed. And just like our Christian walk, when we're trying to plant Christ in others, I might not be able to save them, convert them, whatever,
Sure.
but you may be able to, but because I had planted that seed originally, or somebody else along the lines did. So you never know what kind of fertile ground that you planted a seed into. So just keep preaching that message, even if you don't see the fruits of you planting, if you
Yeah.
don't get to sow all that, just to make sure you're still putting that out there. So that's where my Christian walk applies to my business.
I love it, man. It's so true, dude. I wanted
And
to
what about
change.
you? I mean, that's an awesome question. I love that question. So what about you and your business?
Man,
How does that apply?
yeah, for me, I learned that I need to. You can never judge a book by its cover, and I think reading the word and
Except for this one, it's awesome. No.
except for this one, right? And I want to get into this because it's so good, dude. But I think for me, like I just come into a business just saying, you know what? It's not my job to judge anybody. I don't care if you voted for Biden, voting for Trump, or whatever. I don't care if you're vaxxer or not, or masker or not, right? My job is just to love you where you're at. And whether
Mhm.
that means, you know what, if you just love my business, awesome. If you don't, let me refer you to someone who can. Like, I just want to be an assistant to make an impact on people. And it's not my job to push Christ on anybody, but hopefully they see Christ in what I do, right? In the actions that I take. And that's my goal, is just to love people where they're at, man. And if people ask questions, great. If they don't, man, it's awesome. I'll just keep praying for them, man.
Yeah.
So that's how I intertwine that in my business, at least, for me. And a lot of people, they spend like, an hour or 2 hours meditating and in prayer, man. And for me, I spend a good 15 or 20 minutes, just really deep, solid prayer in the morning. And that's good. I just don't have time to do 2 hours of meditation a day. Right. So I get up and I spend that time, man. And that really helps set the tone for the day and gives me the right attitude, I think, just to make an impact or help somebody,
And I think it's an important thing too, because we see in the self-development space where everyone's like, oh, you need to have this morning routine. It seems like you go spend 4 hours on that morning routine. And then
Totally.
finally you go do stuff. And it's like, I don't have that kind of time. I've
Totally.
got a lot of other things to do. And
Yep.
there's what like David Goggins, all he does, it seems like he runs. That's all he does is
I know.
run all day, you know?
He
It's
just
like,
runs.
yeah. It's like, of course, the dude, like he's making money somewhere, but it's like he's had to put in obviously a ton of work, like
Right.
literally
Yeah. Now he
before
just
that.
runs.
So that now all he can do, all he has to do is run every day or go work out or whatever he does. Cause I forgot what Can't Hurt Me. He talks about some of his
Yeah.
routine, his daily routine. You're like, dude, all you do is stretch and run.
Right.
Like that was pretty much it. And I'm like, that would, well, I don't want to do the running, but or
Yeah.
really or the stretching, but I'd love to just do whatever I want to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than go, have to go do the podcast on the side and work on the business on the side and then go to the 9 to 5. Like it'd be great just to be at home, just
Right.
podcasting with everybody, socializing, networking. Like that'd be awesome. One
Right.
day.
Yeah, one day. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of just because I've actually been working from home since 2015. So
Wow.
I haven't seen people. I haven't been in an office for 7 years. Like the people that I work for now, I saw them 2 years ago when I got hired, just as COVID started, and that was the last time I saw anybody.
Man.
So I work in shorts and a t-shirt and slippers every day, and my wife's like, "Oh, you got your work attire on today, huh?" Like,
That's awesome.
And like I never have to get fancy because I wear the same shirt. I have like 15 black shirts. I just change them out every day and make it easy. But dude, I want to shift to your book.
Sorry,
man.
you can't see my bow tie underneath my beard here. I was wearing a bow tie, but yes.
Totally, dude. So funny. So funny, dude. Your book, though, it's called Mindset Over Motivation. You talk about motivation being temporary and mindset is forever. And that's so good, dude. And you go into details on how to establish a stronger mindset. What was the motivation behind writing this book? Because, I mean, you talked about this earlier a little bit there, but what are some of those tips that folks can put into action to establish that stronger mindset?
So the motivation behind it was I want to be able to write a message to be able to help impact people. And then something for my, at the time, future children to be able to have that something tangible that they could say, hey, dad actually wrote this. And I thought that would be really cool as well.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to really help impact those people. But as far as really building that mindset, one of the books that really inspired, well, two books, the Atomic Habits, and I can't remember his name.
James Clear.
But yeah, James Clear, that's a great one. And then The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Both of those are really awesome. And I love how Darren puts it. And it's all about making small little actions. And Andy talks about this a little bit about just having winning the day, so having your 5 daily tasks and stuff like that, but just doing small things that are going to get you towards your goal. And so that's really how you build up the mindset, is by doing small things to help you win, to overcome what you were going to do. So for example, if you're trying to go to the gym, I've heard of people, they'll do something ridiculous where their only goal to start going to the gym is literally walk into the gym and walk right back out.
Yes.
Building that habit of literally going to the gym and then going home, not work out, not hit the treadmill, nothing, just go there, go home. Yes. And then as they finally get used to that, then they'll start, okay, I'm going to go do one set or something, but it's just small increases over time. And especially like fitness space, it's a really easy one to talk about. Everybody, when they want to start getting in shape, what do? Everything immediately right now. I'm going down to 1,000 calories. I'm working out 7 days a week for 2 hours a day. I'm going to do cardio and lifting weights, and I'm not going to socialize. I'm not going out to eat. I'm not doing nothing.
Yep.
And then what happens 2 or 3 weeks later? They're back to eating the way they were. They're not working out. They're, now they've gained weight. Now they're pissed off because I spent a whole 2 weeks trying to diet and nothing worked. And it's
Totally.
like, well, first of all, you spent 2 weeks. That's not enough time. And secondly, you went so drastic. So start with one thing. And I always tell people with that, like, make breakfast healthy. That's the one meal that's super easy to control. Supper would be another one, especially if you have a 9 to 5, or I guess lunch you could kind of control if you prep ahead of time, but sometimes that's difficult. I get it. Sure. And supper kind of the same way. You could prep that at night, but the day gets to you sometimes. And we do that a lot at home. We're like, my wife, bless her, she does most of the cooking, and she's like, hey, I don't feel like cooking tonight. All right, we'll go pick up something. Yeah. But there I go. And of course you can kind of control that a little bit, but breakfast for sure. It's start of the day. It's easy to control. So just start with something small. And then if you want to go to the gym, okay, go 2 or 3 days or whatever is simple for you. But really to build up that mindset is all about just finding little things that you can do to really help shift your mind just a little bit. So all it takes is a little shift. and over time it compounds to be something way more than it was. And I guess kind of going back to a little bit what Brad Lee was talking about with brushing your teeth, but like literally flossing one tooth. Okay, I want to start flossing my teeth at night. Well, if I floss one tooth, I'll probably be like, well, that's kind of stupid. I got all this dental floss out to floss one tooth. Let me go ahead and just finish it up, but just focus on doing one little thing. I'm gonna do one push up today. Okay, I do one push up. Let me do like 5 or 10. Come on, like one is not a lot. So let's go ahead and do a few more. But just starting with that little bit, and over time, you're gonna build up that mindset to be like, okay, we can do more. Let's push more. Let's see how much further we can go. And so that's what I would say to start with. Just start with something small and build up those wins.
I love that, man. It's so good, dude. Man, Philip, such an honor to have you on my show. Thank you so much for taking time and just dropping a ton of bombs already on the show, man. It was so good. And I don't think I've laughed that much in a show in a very long time, dude. So this was such a fun conversation, man. Thank you for taking time, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, glad I could make you laugh. Hope made the audience laugh as well.
Oh, it is so good, man. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to take a listen or a watch. It's truly an honor to be able to speak with such amazing guests, and I hope that they've made an impact on your life in some way, shape, or form. And you could do me one big favor that would be huge. Click that subscribe button, and then second favor, hit that share button. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you. Keep changing the world. I believe in you.